Hello and welcome to episode 37 of Think Big with Michael Zellner. All positive, no politics. My guest today is Valerie Calhoun. Valerie has been with WHBQ-TV Fox 13 since December of 1995, where she is the co-host of Good Morning Memphis. She has won many Emmy Awards for feature and investigative reporting and is also in the Tennessee Journalism Hall of Fame. And Valerie and I are actually both Geminis, and we share the same birthday of June 11th.
We
Welcome to the show,
do.
Valerie.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here. I'm so glad to see you again. It's been a while.
Yes, it
Um,
has.
and gosh, Michael and I met 18 years ago.
Yes, 18 years ago.
18 years ago. It doesn't seem that long, does it?
When we were both like 10.
We were 10. Absolutely.
Well, this is awesome. I really appreciate you coming on today. Thank you.
This is my first podcast. I'm really excited.
Oh, awesome.
I actually listen to podcasts now that I learned what they were a couple of years ago and how to access them when I'm driving on long trips and stuff.
Right.
So I find a few, and so now I can catch up on yours. Yours is video, but I can listen to it.
Yeah, it's video and audio. It's on all the video and then it's on the audio platforms too. So you can do either one.
Love it.
Awesome. So to start off, tell us something interesting about yourself that most people don't know.
Gosh, I'm kind of an open book. So when I'm talking with Ernie or Brittany or any of my co-workers at work, we talk about stuff we do. But one thing most people don't know is what I'm about to do Labor Day weekend. So by the time this airs, I will have hopefully climbed to the top of Mount LeConte, which is in the Great Smoky Mountains, and made it back down safely.
Is this the first time you've ever gone mountain climbing, or have you been before?
Yes, I mean, I'm from East Tennessee and I've hiked and I've spent a lot of time outdoors, but I've never hiked a mountain up to the top. It's the third tallest mountain, I think, in east of the Mississippi. And there's a little lodge up at the top. And you have to put your name in a lottery, basically, to see if you can stay there. There's no electricity, there's no running water, but there are flushable toilets. Anyway, so that's what I'm doing it with two of my three sisters and a friend, and I'm looking forward to it. I hope we make it back down.
Yes, you will. That sounds like a lot of fun. So, Valerie, you started off in television in a few smaller markets before you came to Memphis. What did you learn early on in your career that gave you the opportunity and confidence to come to a larger market like here?
I learned that if you want to do it, whatever it is, in my case, broadcasting, or if you want to, make pickles or whatever you want to do, if you want to do it and you're willing to put in the hard work and the time, then you can do anything you want to do. Because honestly, I graduated from UT and I had a worse accent than I do now, like Mike instead of Mike,
Right.
And my hair was terrible. It truly was, and I just was not the girl that they chose to do the things in college, like the TV one or whatever, the newscast. I did the radio newscast, but this is what I wanted to do. And so I got a job in radio. Nobody snapped me up in TV. I thought I was so cute and so great. My tape was terrible. At the time we had tapes, reels,
Right.
terrible. My mom and I got in a car and we targeted markets, little markets in the Carolinas, North Carolina and South Carolina. And we called and we tried to set up appointments with news directors. And most were like, yeah, if you're in town, stop by. Okay, I'll be in town. So we stopped by. I would go literally to like the mall and go to a department store and clean up and then go to the TV station with my tape that was terrible. And I finally got a job. And I asked the lady later, I said, why did you hire me? My tape was terrible. She said, I never looked at it. I liked your pluck. I liked your can-do attitude, because I said, I'll do anything. And as I drove to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, a month or two later for that job, I realized I was going to be what they call a MMJ, a multimedia journalist, where you shoot your own video. I realized I was about Spartanburg, and I realized I don't know how to shoot video. And I just was driving and I was like, oh no, what am I going to do? And so I panicked for, a minute, couple of minutes driving. And then I was like, I'll figure it out. And I did.
That's awesome. That's a great story. I never knew any of that. That's really
Yeah,
awesome.
it's in my mom, she believed in me too. And she said, you can do this. So I never entered my mind that I couldn't or wouldn't, even though I had news directors tell me, you will never. I had one guy in Newburgh, North Carolina. He told me, you will never be in TV. You have a terrible accent and your hair is awful. He said that. I was like, well, it is. And he's right, but I'll show you.
Yeah,
So here we are.
absolutely. You're on the advisory board of the Southern Rains Center for Equine Therapy, and you volunteer as a horse leader and a sidewalker. How did you become involved with that?
Gosh, I love it so much too. Actually, in East Tennessee, I started it. Bristol, I worked for a Bristol TV station, and Bristol's, divided in the middle of the street. So half is Virginia, half is Tennessee. So near Bristol is Abington, Virginia. And I think I did a story on this group, and it was the same kind of group there, therapeutic horseback riding for special needs, in this case, children. And I started volunteering just to be out, I thought, near the horses. I fell in love with it. And when I came to Memphis in 1995, it was November 1995. By the next fall, I had found a group here, and I believe it was called Special Cargo, but I know it was run by United Cerebral Palsy. And so we did that for several years. They finally lost funding and disappeared. And then the group that runs Southern Rain started this up, and I happened to know them. They're my friends. And I said, I had no idea you all were interested in this. This is what I love. So the rest is history, as they say. I just love it.
I mean, you said that special needs kids come out there and everything like that. How does that?
Listen, this is so great. It's not only special needs kids, and that's how it started, but now it's seniors, it's Alpha Omega, it's veterans, it's we have some kids from Porter Leith. It's an amazing program. Have you ever been around horses much, Mike?
No, I have not.
Okay, they're big, beautiful beasts, right? And they're intimidating, but if you know how, and if you are taught to be around them and not scare them into, it's amazing. So in the case of the veterans, you see the stress melt away. They're just, brushing, cleaning up the animals, walking them. It's huge. And so with children, um, there's one child that I worked with the first 2 or 3 years when Southern Rain started. And at the time we were down in Nesbitt, Mississippi. And this young man came in the first time, and it was tough because he was kind of acting out and, not wanting to relax.
Right.
Gosh, by the end of that session, the fall session, and that was maybe 8 classes, he was a different kid. He was a different kid. He would get on the horse, he would take ownership, he was proud, he would look forward to these days, and he was so proud because of what he accomplished. He had brothers and sisters that had sports or band or whatever they did, and he had never had his own thing. That child is still doing Southern Rains, and
Wow.
he's not a child anymore. He's a young man. It's amazing.
You have to feel
There's
so
another little
good.
boy. They literally lift out of the wheelchair and put him on the horse. We have two sidewalkers, and you're holding his leg on and holding, and you have the horse leader, and you go around and do the things, and they follow the prompts, and they have to do stuff, and it's a great exercise for them too, for their core and for their muscles. The smiles on these kids' faces is worth everything. Mike, if
Yeah.
you ever need something to do, I know you're busy. Come on out there with me. You'll love it.
And that sounds real. And honestly, when I was researching and saw that on there, I thought about that. I said I would love to. I've only been around horses a few times in my life out at Shelby Farms, but
Mhm.
nothing extensive like that. That sounds like a lot of fun and very rewarding.
What we find is a lot of people who just say, "Well, I'll volunteer. I'll stop by, once a week or once when you need me." We have people who are there almost every day, and they're
Wow,
shoveling in the stalls, shoveling up the stuff. I mean, because they love it so much. So
that's awesome. So I understand that when you were in elementary school, you played the bongo drums in a talent show. How did that work out for you?
it was horrible. I don't even know what I was thinking, but I just knew I wanted to be on that stage, and I knew I couldn't sing, and I knew I couldn't dance.
Right.
I was a failed ballerina. It was horrible. Um, So I think I'd gotten a set of bongo drums for Christmas. I will never know what possessed me to have the confidence or recklessness to get up there and play the drums. I don't know what I played. It was terrible.
Is that on videotape anywhere?
No, it was before video.
Yeah.
That's, people of our generation, Michael, we were spared a lot. No,
Yes.
people didn't have phones that could take video all the time.
Right. I tell people all the time, my niece and nephew in their 20s, I'm like, the 80s was the best time to grow up. You just have no idea. It was just the
You had no
movies, the
idea.
music. It was just the best time.
It was
Such
the
an
best
easier,
time.
simpler life. Yeah.
Much simpler. Yeah.
And we got fine. We got along fine without our phones. We didn't have no problems.
Yeah. And our parents let us run the streets till dark in the summer, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Valerie, what motivates you and inspires you?
Gosh, I love what I do. I love the city. When I wake up at 2:36, that first alarm goes off, and that's awful. I mean, can't lie, it's awful.
Right.
But by the time I get up, I just still love it, Mike. That's what it is. And here's what I love about it. I love being able to share stories with our viewers, to share stories that matter to people. And even though I'm on the anchor desk, I push in the newsroom, hey, why don't we have this, whatever it is in? Because this is something that would mean something to our viewers.
Right.
Why we've got to cover this. You have a lot of young producers and they're fantastic, but some don't have the life experience or maybe are new to Memphis. And so Ernie and I, we pretty much know what keeps people ticking, what they care about. They care about the kids. They care about money. They care about getting baby formula.
Right.
They care about getting diapers. And the food banks become such a huge need, and people need to know about stuff like that. So I guess I feel like in the 5 hours that I'm on every day, I know there is crime, and I know people say, oh, we see too much crime, but also I know we're helping people. I love it.
That's awesome. You got to love what you do. Absolutely.
It's something different every day.
You talk about your schedule, and you've been on the same schedule for a long time now. I think you go to bed around 7 o'clock at night and get up very early around 2:30 in the morning each weekday. And that does take a lot of true love and a ton of self-discipline. How have you been able to sustain that schedule for so many years now?
I don't know. That's a good question. We ask ourselves that sometimes. Sometimes we'll look at each other. It's morning folks, and we're like, why are we doing this again? But honestly, getting up is the hardest part. And sure, you get tired. You find a way to, sorry about that. You find a way to, my son, you find a way to cope with it, and then you just kind of push on. For some people, it's taking naps every day. For some people, it's going to work out hard every day. And some people, it's a mix. I kind of do. Sometimes I work out, sometimes I nap. I just keep myself busy or whatever, but I like the schedule overall because once you're done for the day, you're done.
Right.
And if you work the night shift, you got that hanging over your head all day and you have to go to work.
Yeah. And that's a great point. So on the weekends, do you find yourself staying up later, or is it your schedule gets you to where you still have to go to bed early and get up early?
I can sleep except, like you, I've got dogs. And so, they have a schedule. They like to get up and go out, but I could sleep if I'm allowed to. Friday nights are tough. There's one of them. Friday nights are tough. My son now has graduated high school, but we always had Friday night football, and it was like that kept us going.
Right.
So now it's like 8:30. I may be all right. I'm calling it a night, but I'll sleep in and I'll be good for Saturday night, maybe till 10 or 11.
Right.
Maybe later, but yeah.
I went out recently to the Jimmy Jameson tribute at Hard Rock Cafe. It was a week ago Sunday night, and I was out till 2:30 in the morning.
Ooh,
and
like
I came like a kid. I was like, oh, I'm in my 20s again. It's called 616. And I was like, I came home and I was like, oh my God. Thankfully, only had a beer or two. So it was just the being out late. I was like, this was a lot more difficult the next morning getting up than it was in my 20s.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. It wears on us a lot more now, doesn't it?
It definitely
But hey,
does.
you were having fun. That's why time went so quickly, right?
Absolutely. It was a ton of fun. Yeah. You hear John Cafferty play and Ronnie McDowell play and singing Elvis.
Oh, I love him.
Oh, it was great. It was a lot of fun.
I never got to meet Jimmy Jameson. When I moved to Memphis, he was here, but I just never got to meet him, and I'm sad that I didn't.
I
He's
just
so
interviewed his
beloved.
daughter, Amy, recently, and that was a great interview when I was researching Jimmy and all the things I found out about him that I had no idea. It was a lot of fun.
Oh wow. Yeah, he was great.
Um, your watch recently talked to you while you were on the Fox 13 set and
Yeah,
told you to quote, stand up and do some exercises, unquote. I
it
know you
did.
had to have laughed at that, but did you actually listen and do it?
I think I did stand up beside the desk and just kind of like, we can't go very far. So I'm just
Right.
standing up, and sometimes we'll do that. It's like the seventh inning stretch. And just, do knee bends or something like that. I did do that because my sister got this for me for my birthday. I didn't see her till August. That's why I didn't have it in June.
Right.
And it's one of those Amazon watches, kind of like, I guess, an Apple Watch. So
Right.
I'm fascinated by it. I'm tracking my sleep. And I don't know if it's broken or if I don't have any REM sleep, but it doesn't show that I get any REM sleep. I just get, a certain amount of deep sleep and a lot of light sleep. Do you have one of these
I
kind
do
of
not.
things? They're fascinating. And then they get bossy, stand up and walk around.
Right. Yeah, I take it that it's sitting in that position for 5 hours. It has to get a little bit where you're like, I do want to stand up.
You do. Yeah, we have 3 times that we can take a break, and it's, a 5-minute break maybe. And but if yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
We talked about how you and I met back in the late 2004. Is actually November of 2004. My first mattress and furniture business, which was called Z's Warehouse, and you featured me on Bargain Thursdays, and you got to help a lot of businesses like mine for many years, having them on TV. I remember what my business was like that day, and then it was like that for many years to come. I actually would have people that said to me, hey, I remember you on Bargain Thursdays. I mean, literally, Valerie, when I tell you 10 years later, I still heard that even when I opened up
Yeah.
Sleepy Z's. I still heard, I remember you on Bargain Thursdays back, and at the time years ago. That had to make you really feel good knowing that you were helping the small business guy and girl.
It did. It's like I was telling you, some of the things you can do that people love. Everybody loves the bargain, right?
Right.
Everybody does, and everybody wants a deal. And it was actually, and this was several news directors ago, it was actually hard to talk them into letting me do it. They thought it would be too frivolous. And I was like, well, let's give it a try.
Right.
And for a long time, that was the we call them franchises, or the stories that we would do that would get the most response, because people wanted to know, where do you get that? Where do you get that bargain? Where is that place? What time are they open? Yeah, we haven't done them in years. We now have a consumer reporter who does a more polished version of that, and it's she does consumer reports, and I don't know if we'll ever get back to a Bargain Thursday thing, but I sure love them. Sadly, as you have noticed, since COVID, we lost so many small businesses.
Yeah.
And so you don't find these businesses around like you used to. And it was always hard, as you know, for small businesses to keep going.
Yeah. It was very difficult. I remember that day though. I used to do it by appointment only. And I remember getting to the store at 8:30. And the first feature I want to say was between 6:30 and 7 that morning on Bargain Thursdays, because it was, I think, featured 2 times during the show.
Yes.
And I remember looking at the cell phone that was on the desk that we took the calls on from all the little ads I used to place in the newspaper back then when people read newspapers.
Yes.
And literally there were like 40 something missed calls by 8:30. And I was like,
I
it
don't
was
think you
like,
ever told me that.
no,
That's
my sales
funny.
guys and I was like, oh my gosh, we have so many calls to return. And it was like, before that would be maybe 2 or 3, but it was like over 40 something calls. That it was unbelievable. So it was
Yeah.
very exciting. So I always appreciate it. Then you did it again the next year. You featured me again. And so, yeah.
You moved to a bigger kind of a warehouse
Yeah.
building, or a big box building
Yeah.
over off Winchester.
Right. In Winchester, Mendenhall. Yeah.
And then you branched out to other stuff too.
I did. Yeah. A few years later. And then I got out of that and got back and, rebranded as Sleepy Z's, and, had a lot of fun doing that for about 6 years. I'm actually glad to be out of it now, not being in the retail business. Sometimes there are blessings in disguise. And me
That's
getting
true.
out of it 3 years ago, actually, at the time, I didn't think it was a good thing, because of health reasons, but it was a good thing.
Yeah, sometimes there's a greater plan, isn't there?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
the Rendezvous is one of my all-time favorite restaurants in Memphis. I would say it's probably actually my favorite. I've been going
Uh-huh.
there since I was a teen in braces, sometimes drinking beer. With Percy was my waiter back then,
Oh, I
and
love, yeah,
he was so
Percy.
great. The food, the atmosphere there was amazing, and you were close friends with Nick Virgos, whose father Charlie started the Rendezvous back in
Mhm.
1948. Actually, Charlie was a patient of my dad's. My dad was a podiatrist. He was a patient of my dad's for many years.
Oh,
Um,
goodness.
and I knew Nick passed away about 3 years ago. And
Mhm.
you said of him, quote, "My heart is heavy today. A friend with a huge heart has lost his battle with cancer." Nick Virgos was a friend and an amazing man. I first met him at the family's restaurant, The Rendezvous. He has volunteered to cook massive amounts of food for more charitable events that most of us attended. We spent the last few years volunteering at Southern Rains. He was one of those special people who brought joy to others, unquote. He obviously must have done a lot of things for people and didn't want the publicity or credit for any of it. Tell us a little bit about the Nick that you knew.
Yeah, that's Nick Virgos. And he, you go about your life, you do nice things for people, here and there and feel pretty good. That's just who he was and what he did. And talk about selfless. He had his full-time job. He and his brother and his sister, ran Rendezvous and the shipping, and that's a full-time
Right.
gig. But he's got such a big heart. Uh, Greek Fest, you would always see him there sweating over the grill. I mean, the whole time. So before Greek Fest started and the day that it went and always working. He did a lot of smaller events. You would just see you say, oh, well, there's Nick. Oh, well,
Right.
there's Nick. Oh, there's Nick. He did fundraisers. He did stuff for friends and family. I mean, he was a giver. I didn't even know until his funeral. It was at Hope Church, and I asked his wife. I said, or a friend. I said, I didn't know they went to Hope Church. I know he's Greek. Anyway, he would cook for them. He helped out at Hope Church. He cooked all the time. That's who he was. I was thrilled when he joined Southern Rains, and he had some extra time and came out on some afternoons, even when we were down in Nesbit, Mississippi, quite a drive. And then when we're out in Collierville too. And let me tell you, the kids opened up like flowers with him. Even some of the kids that were having a bad day, Nick had a way about him just to get them talking and laughing. And I felt like, a couple of times I felt like, wow, wow, I wish I could do that. He just has that way. He had that way about him. He was a special, special person, and he loved Memphis and he loved the Memphis Tigers,
Yeah.
no matter what sport they were playing, as you know.
Yeah. Um, you've gotten a chance to meet a lot of famous actors and famous musicians over the years, and I know one of them that you mentioned recently is comedian Kevin Hart. You guys interviewed him back in 2014 when he was on Good Morning Memphis when he was here doing a free fan appreciation event. What did you like and find most interesting about Kevin interviewing him that day?
Kevin Hart, and I just watched his movie on Netflix, Me Time. That Kevin Hart is the Kevin Hart you meet. I mean, unless he's a heck of an actor every second of his life, that seems to be who he is. We don't do the interviews anymore on Good Morning Memphis. It's more, straight news, but we used to have all the comedians, all the people would come through town and they'd come in with an entourage or people or whatever, and most were very nice and wonderful, but he was so real. I mean, he was real. It was like we're just sitting here talking, like
Right.
he had known you forever. No pretense, no nothing. He was great. And so I want to support him, whatever he does, because he's that guy.
Yeah.
They're not all like that. My greatest disappointment was Jimmy J.J. Walker from Good Times.
Mm-hmm.
He was on our show when we were live on Beale Street on Friday mornings years ago. And I was so excited because when I was a kid, I had to have the same pajamas, the one piece red pajamas with a back flap like Jimmy J.J. Walker, Kid Dynamite.
Right.
And I was trying to tell him he didn't care. He did not want us to refer to his time on Good Times. He didn't want to be reminded of any of that. and he was so
Oh,
rude. It was horrible. I was very upset.
and that's what made him. I mean,
That's what made him.
no one would know him because I mean, he didn't really do anything after that,
I
you know,
know.
and
Get
even the
dynamite.
right in the commercials he does today for I think what insurance or Medicare or something, and you see the good times behind him there. So obviously to his advantage, that's people know him from that.
Mhm.
So that is disappointing.
It was, but Thelma was great.
Okay.
She was on our show. She was great.
Well, at least that's good. But yeah, that is
That's good.
disappointing when you find out that people are not who they thought they were.
Mhm.
I've posted 3 or 4 things in the last few months about Keanu Reeves, and just an amazing guy. I mean, things that he's done and talking to fans, and just went to a wedding over in England. He was invited by a couple that he didn't even know in a
Saw that.
resort, and then just unbelievable. And I've heard from people that are friends of mine that are in that business to say he is really that guy, and that's great to hear.
That is great to hear. That makes you like them even more. I feel like
Absolutely.
Sandra Bullock's like that, don't
Yeah.
you?
Yeah. I hope that she is. She was awesome in The Blind Side, and
She
some
was.
in so many movies, in Speed, and so many different movies. So yeah, I hope that she is that way. We talked about transparency, and you're pretty transparent. You share a lot about your life on television, your family, on social media. You recently said you guys had a scare that one of your plastic covered outlets in your home was melted and charred, and it was the wiring that caused it, and it was loose for many years. And y'all were very fortunate that your house didn't catch on fire. That's pretty scary. I mean, that
It
nothing worse
is.
happened.
You really do your homework. Yeah, it truly was. And I'm not upstairs that much. Um, and we saw it and was like, whoa. And it was up the yeah. So fortunately, an electrician, I called two or three, and somebody came over the next day. And once he got in and he saw and I showed all the melted
Right.
stuff, he said, "Yeah, you were lucky.
Yeah. Because you
You had an
see,
angel on your
oh,
shoulder."
absolutely. I was about to say that it was someone was watching over you guys because
Yeah.
and protecting you.
And 2 years ago, I guess it was 2020 in the fall, we had some of the lights went out, like where I'm sitting at the kitchen table, that light went out and some other lights went out, like all over the house, just different spots. It was a lightning strike. And it took, okay, I had a home warranty company, won't say which one at the time. So you
Right.
had to go through the channels. And so we had like 3 visits over 6 weeks. Nobody could figure it out. When we finally got it figured out, God said, "You had a lightning strike." And he showed us where it hit and it kind of skipped around in another one of those "you were lucky" things. So you never know, lightning is lightning until it hits your house or hits,
Right.
a tree that not falls over on your house or something like that. Um, yeah, electricity is nothing to mess with, is it?
No, and you're obviously very fortunate. You obviously have a few different angels watching over you guys on your shoulder, and there's nothing wrong with that.
I
That's
think
a
it's my
very good thing.
grandparents.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have my dad around me. I feel his energy and spirit all the time. I mean, so many things have happened in the last 9 years, too many to name, that I know it's him.
Yeah,
So I know he's around, and because spirit and your soul and energy, they never die.
yeah. And you're a survivor and you've always thought big. And that's comes from your dad, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
it does. It comes from my dad. Always supportive, both mom and dad. Yeah, but definitely. Um, we unfortunately live in a really negative world, and so many things on the news today are about horrible things that have happened. I don't like to mention that stuff because this podcast is about positive stuff, but I do want to know how you've been able to do what you've done for so many years, and you have such a really amazing outlook on life. You're always smiling, because I know that can't be easy sometimes.
Yeah, it's tough. I was thinking about and I jotted down some of the stories that were the worst and that are hard to get over and that you take home. And if you have kids yourself, you look at them and you think, how do we protect them from this? The Severson Street fire,
Right.
7 children were killed, 3 adults,
Right.
and they had the safety bars on the windows. Terrifying. That was years ago. The Leicester Street massacre. There are awful stories, and I think what we do if we're on the street reporting them, um, you just have to go into the mode of I've got to get the information, I've got to share the information that needs to be shared. If you're on the anchor desk, and you have a reporter out there, but you're still reading the story and you're absorbing it. Sometimes I have to kind of distance myself, kind of like la, 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 la,
Right.
but not really, but kind of distance myself so I can continue to do the news without, sobbing. Some of the stories are that tough.
Right.
Another tough one was the Collierville Kroger,
Right.
the active shooter, and it's been almost a year since that happened. Our Daryl Green was magnificent. He was magnificent. He had already almost lost his voice due to allergies or whatever, and he happened to drive up on it and reported for hours. And so when you're doing that, you're kind of in that mode. It's only when you get in your car and go home that it hits you. But it hits you nonetheless, And I feel bad too, because Tom D is one of our veteran reporters. He started at the station a few weeks before I did in November of 1995. He has seen a lot. We have an overnight photographer, Ronnie Guidry. He's seen a lot. I do believe some of the folks who see this kind of stuff, I'm talking terrible car crashes, bodies, people in the worst times of their life, grieving and mourning. It's gotta be some PTSD there.
Yeah.
We got to show them some grace.
And, I've talked about this in a few of my podcasts with people about mindfulness and mental health awareness, that there's so many people, especially men, are afraid to reach out for help, because they don't think they think it's, oh, it's not macho and everything like that. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, if you have PTSD or if you have issues that you need to talk about them.
I agree. And I, bringing their names up, they talk about it. They talk about it.
Good.
And they talk about, like Tom does publicly, it's tough. The stuff we see, it is.
Yeah.
It is. And what we show on the air is not everything that we see. Right. It's tough as a parent, because then all the evils that can be out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
on a positive, a few years ago, you had a chance to go out to Graceland. They were filming the Hallmark movie, Christmas at Graceland, Home for the Holidays out there. And you said that the Brooks Museum got a lot of coverage in the movie, and Memphis was portrayed as, quote, beautiful and fun place. I've lived here my entire life and love Memphis. And like we talked about, there's a lot of crime here. But yes, there's a lot of crime in a lot of large metropolitan cities. Memphis is not the only one. We only see it here, and are focused on it so much because that's pretty much all you hear is when you're watching your local news or on the internet. And so many good positive things about here, more positive than bad. Who would have ever thought 20 something years ago that Memphis would ever have an NBA team that is so beloved?
right.
Federal Express based here, AutoZone, International Paper, the Grizzlies, St. Jude, Le Bonheur, so much more. It's not easy, however, if people would do their best to focus on the positives instead of the negatives, and they would have a much different perspective on life, don't you think?
Yes, I do. There is so much positive here. And there have been studies on this that we see and we talk about it. It's one of the most giving places in the country.
Right.
It's one of the poorest cities in the nation, but it's also one of the most giving. And you see that every day.
Yep.
People want to help somebody who's downtrodden. We run a story about somebody whose, roof was blown off and they don't have the money to fix it, or they lost it. People call in and want to help that person every time.
Right.
Every time. They want to help people who are trying to get along and are doing their best. And, something happens, that people want to help. So it's a great city. And I got to tell you, the NBA team, the excitement around this young NBA team,
right?
Ja and Desmond Bain. I mean, doesn't that get you excited?
Oh,
and
gosh.
Doesn't it get you excited about our city?
Heck yes.
Yeah. And Penny Hardaway coaching the Tigers.
I know.
I mean, I love it.
I mean, yeah, we thought after Cal left that it would never be back that way again. And now, I mean, it's getting back there again, with Penny around. Right, so many positive things. You just got to keep looking for them because they're there.
Yeah. So I was out at Shelby Farms Sunday in my hiking boots, breaking them in a little more. I've been breaking them in a little bit at a time. And I had forgotten how wonderful it is out there. I had not been deep into the park in a while. When I first moved here, I was out there almost every day on my rollerblades,
Right.
dating myself, or my bike. And I've gone out on my paddleboard out in the lake. I don't know if it's still called Patriot Lake, but my friend and I walked almost 4 miles all around. What an asset to this city. And
Yep.
to see all the families and the individuals just out walking too and enjoying it, that's something special. Yeah.
I've said if for some reason that Tom Lee Park isn't ready next year for Memphis in May, go to Shelby Farms. That's
They
what I
could
yeah,
they
you
could
know,
handle it, couldn't they?
yeah, they could. I mean, they obviously have all the room in the world. So that's just my 2 cents on it. That's what I would go if they can't handle it there. Because, I know it didn't go as well on Tiger Lane as they wanted
Mhm.
to and everything. But that's a great place too with the new complex that's being built there and the improvements to now Liberty Stadium. I mean, lots of
Oh, yeah.
positive stuff.
Oh, absolutely. A lot of people I talked to actually liked it better at Liberty Park.
Really?
But I know the numbers didn't show,
Right.
but that's what I heard from a lot of people. Of course, people my age, maybe the kids like it better on the river.
Okay. Quote, never realized the passing hours of evening showers, slip noose hanging in my darkest dreams. I'm strangled by your haunted social scene, just a pawn outplayed by a dominating queen. Now, those are a few lyrics from your favorite song of all time, Elton John's Someone Saved My Life Tonight. I know you saw him in concert back in October of 2019 at FedEx Forum. Did he sing the song that night, and why is it so special to you?
I don't know. I just love it. I just love it. And he not only did he sing the song, he explained a little bit. He said that was one of his favorite songs, or
Cool.
said it was his favorite. And then later I listened to his book on audio, his audio book, and he talked about it more. And he said it for him, it was him getting out of that first marriage he was in. And his writing partner, Bernie Taupin, wrote that because that's what was happening and basically got him out of that. It was fascinating. But yes, I don't know, but I've always loved that song since I was a kid. Just love it, love it, love it. And I
Um,
had my June Lee Elton version of Elton John sunglasses on. I was styling at that
yeah, I
concert.
saw the picture that you got them from a store. Yeah, I saw that
Mhm.
picture. Those are awesome. Um, this past July 29th was Fox 13 Merle Purvis's last day. She retired, and you said of her, quote, "I'm going to miss your smiling face, your leadership, and your encouragement, Merle Purvis. But I wish you many years of love, laughter, travel, and fun." Unquote. We know how wonderful she was on the air. What's it like to know her on a personal level?
Oh gosh, she's so caring. She's so supportive. Okay, so when I moved here in November '95, went on the air December 1st. I'd just been on the air a few weeks, and I met her somewhere. I don't remember where. She came up to me, introduced herself, told me how much she enjoyed our morning show, and welcomed me to Memphis. And I was like, wow. Of course, I know who she was
Sure.
because I'd seen her at Channel 5 is where she was at the time.
Right.
And that's who she is. A lot of the young reporters would come in and she would take them under her wing. Those who worked night side with her, take them under her wing and kind of, I know she introduced one to the man she later married. Um, she's kind of a mother hen, but also very supportive. And she's the one, and I probably mentioned it in that post. She'll text, "Man, great story. What you did with this," and not just empty compliments, but point out something particularly that she liked
Right.
or that struck her. That's who she is.
I had a few friends that were at Channel 5 when she was there, and they said that she's just a wonderful person, like genuine.
Genuine, gracious and giving. Yeah. So yeah, I know she's doing some stuff, and then she said in September let's touch base. So I'm hoping to go to a very nice lunch with her and spend some time and catch up.
That would be a lot of fun. What is the main thing that's changed about covering the news today compared to when you started at the age of 30 years ago?
Absolutely. I was just young. It's changed dramatically. Okay, first of all, the first big change was when I started and I had to shoot my own video. The camera was, like this. We had a tape deck that was like, you know, it was so heavy. So you're
Right.
carrying at least 50 pounds of equipment. And you had to get your tape in, you had a camera, and you walk around, and then a tripod to set it up because I had to, shoot stuff so it wasn't like an earthquake, steady. Um, every year it seems like the cameras got a little smaller and a little smaller, and now they're about this big. If you've seen news crews out, they're very small, but they're
Right.
so high tech. You can shoot news with an iPhone or an Android,
Right.
and we've done that. I've shot interviews. There was a train derailment near my house a couple of years ago, and I was out there getting the video. It's almost as good.
Right.
But the biggest change, other than the size of the equipment, is is with the live view, and that's basically a backpack camera. So that eliminates the need for cords and reels of cords to go live somewhere. And the first time I saw it, it was on Good Morning Memphis, and we were trying one out. Tom Dees and Derek Curran, then photographer for us, they went on one of those airboats down in Mississippi through the swamp. We could have never done that.
Right.
Never done that. It was amazing. So yeah, I'm not sure how it works, but it works and it's amazing. So you can go anywhere. Before you had to take a live truck out and unroll spools of cables, and you were limited so much. That's changed. That was the beginning of the change that was just nuts to me to watch that and go, wow, that's amazing.
Tell us a little bit about your co-host on Good Morning Memphis, Ernie Freeman.
Ernie. I love Ernie. Gosh, he's like a brother to me. He truly is. We finish each other's sentences frequently with the same bad puns. Um, he's like a member of the family. For my son Bo, he's like Uncle Ern, like he is, Uncle Ernie. Um, he's great. But when he first started, he was kind of, quiet at first, and I wasn't sure. I didn't know how this was going to go, but actually fairly immediately we got pretty comfortable with each other and kind of got into a rhythm. We really like each other. We really amuse each other. And I think we really respect each other too, which is pretty awesome in this business. You don't always get that.
Right. You sent him in a few years ago to me at Sleepy Z's when he got a mattress from me. So he was really nice. So
That's
I appreciate
right.
it. Yeah. He was one of the
Yeah.
many people that you sent to me. So thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
You said, quote, I went to a movie yesterday. It was packed. Elvis, the movie was good. I'm amending this to explain why I did not rave. The movie made me sad. Sad for Elvis and his lost dreams. That said, it was an excellent movie. I love seeing the way the movie portrayed B.B. King, Bill Street, and their importance to Elvis. Also, the actor who portrayed Elvis was really good, unquote. I took my mom to that movie and we both loved it too. And she cried a lot, especially toward the end. I believe probably for some of the main reasons that you did. You thought that were sad. And, when you're a kid and you hear of someone passing at the age of 42, you think that's old. Because you're a kid. You think you're a little kid. It is old to you. And when
Sure.
becoming an adult, you realize how truly young 42 is. And it's such a tragic loss. And he lost his life at that age. And Elvis, he could have and should have been entertaining fans all over the world with concerts probably well into the 2000s. Don't you agree?
I absolutely agree. I was looking at Priscilla, his ex-wife, when she was here Elvis Week a couple of weeks ago, and I was watching her thinking, there should be Elvis up there. Nothing against her, but because she's, he would still be vital had he not gone the path he went.
Yeah.
And just based on that movie, I've also read a lot of books about him and about Colonel Tom Parker.
Right.
The poor guy. He was such an incredibly talented man. Elvis Presley, he changed music.
Yes.
And yeah, to think that his dreams were quashed. He wanted to do more serious movies too.
Yeah.
Colonel wouldn't let him, kept steering him towards what he wanted him to do. So yeah, I was all excited about seeing the movie. It was a good movie, but it was depressing. So I understand your mom. I guess she knew the Elvis, she saw him in his youth,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Performing
Yeah. A few years
the
younger, but
Elvis.
right. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So that has to be hard. My mom said she didn't really want to see it.
Yeah. I think my
So,
parents went to I think there was a concert at the Coliseum, like 73, that they went to and saw him there. Saw Elvis live there. He actually worked before he became Elvis in the early 50s when he was still in high school. My grandfather and great uncle had a place called Bozoff Dinettes, and it was out on right off on East Bodley, right off 3rd Street. And Elvis worked there this is a true story. He worked there really briefly, and they literally had to fire him because all he wanted to do was play the guitar. True story.
Well, it paid off in the end for
Yes,
him,
it
didn't
did.
it?
It paid off at the end and everything. But yeah, I thought the character Austin, he nailed the character of Elvis, and
He
Priscilla.
did. He didn't look like him at first, and
Right.
I was like, I don't know about this, but he did extremely well.
And Priscilla and Lisa Maurice, so many people gave it a standing ovation when it was premiered. They just said, "This is a great movie."
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that adds a lot to Memphis too. Popular culture, movies, songs can make someone want to go visit a place. Like when I got the call about, this job, I'd applied for it because the way the ad was written, looking for a news anchor, it had something about Elvis in it. And Graceland, it was just extremely well written. I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. Memphis, okay. And that song "Walking in Memphis" was big,
Yeah.
and that just and then the movie The Firm had been out, and I was like, Memphis is pretty cool.
Right.
And my dad at the time, the last time he had been here was, I guess, in the 70s, and it was after Dr. King was killed, and downtown was not what it is now.
Right.
And he said, I don't think you want to go there. And I said, I do want to go there. And I came back and I said, I want to live there. And here we are.
Yeah, Walking in Memphis, I think was around 1990, and The Firm came out in 93, filmed in 92 here.
And I had seen that and thought, wow, that's really cool. And anyway, so yeah, that it colors your perception of a place.
Right.
And it did so very favorably for me. And I hope that the movie Elvis does that for people all over the world who've never been to Memphis too.
Yeah. Kennedy Chandler recently got drafted this summer. He was drafted originally by the San Antonio Spurs with the 38th pick in the second round of the NBA draft. And amazingly, he ends up being traded during the draft as hometown Grizzlies. And you said of Kennedy, quote, "I'm so proud of this young man. Not only is he a dynamic player, he's an admirable human. I met Kennedy through my son when they were in the 5th or 6th grade. Seeing him in Grizzlies uniform, I think about watching him and Bo train at the old D1 facility. And he and his family have worked hard to get here. Enjoy and soar high, Kennedy," unquote. He's only about to turn 20 years old in a few weeks. I mean, he's got an amazing future ahead of him, doesn't he?
He does. He does. And my son, and his buddies, because he was at UT last year with Kennedy, and they'd run into him or they'd text. And it's like, man, can't believe you're, a year from now, you're going to be in the NBA. And, he was not braggadocious at all. This is his buddy saying this to him. He said, well, I hope so, we'll see. But I knew that he wouldn't. I knew that he would like to play for the Grizzlies. And I knew that he and John Morant were friends because they'd been hanging out some.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So even before he went to UT for the 1 year, he's a great kid. I mean, literally, his dad and I would be leaning on the railing, waiting for them to finish up practice. 5th or 6th grade. I don't remember, 5th, 6th grade, 7th, 8th grade, and then my son transferred to Briarcrest.
Right.
And I said, well, he talked about Briarcrest. I said, well, do you know anybody there? He said, yeah, I know Kennedy. I'm like, well, okay. Kennedy, all right.
Right.
And, he's a good kid, and he's a young man now.
Right.
And I can't wait to see what he does for the Grizzlies.
It's going to be exciting.
His excitement, and again, the young team, it just, I can't get out to a lot of games, especially on weeknights because it's late.
Right.
But I sure do enjoy watching, and I follow him on Twitter, and, Jaw and Desmond Bain, and I just love the whole thing.
Yeah, you go to bed at the time the games are starting.
I know.
Except the weekends. Glamorous. The weekends you can watch.
The weekends, that's right.
That's good. Valerie, you have a lot of special friends in your life that seem to have been there for you, through just about everything you've gone through. I know it's hard to name everybody, but if you don't mind, tell us maybe about, a few of the ones that are pretty close to you.
Yeah, you think about the life friends, right? Um, and my husband, when I was inducted into the Tennessee Journalism Hall of Fame, which was a shocker, and I love that. Um, I was like, who are you going to invite? Well, I don't know. So my husband called my friend Lisa Kalachava, who lives in Knoxville, but we met at WCYB-TV in Bristol, worked there years and years ago. And, she's one of those life friends. So she was there in an instant. Um, Amy Austin, one of my friends here, one of the first girlfriends that I made in Memphis. We had a ladies' dinner club. Um, she came, and she's one of those forever friends too. Uh, I've met a lot of great mom friends that are amazing, because you spend so much time going to, practices and workouts and that kind of thing. And so kind of have a posse, and that's so important. Um, Before I moved here, I moved around a lot in TV, and, your friends are people in TV,
Right.
which is good and bad. You can never get away from it. Sometimes you need to not talk about TV, you
Right.
know? And so when I leave work, not much talking about TV, you know? And if I do, I'll call Ernie or
Right.
somebody, you know? Um, so yeah,
Your good
yeah.
friends don't care that you're Valerie Calhoun from Good Morning Memphis. You're
Oh,
Valerie Calhoun to them. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I'm Val. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So I have my 4 boys and a girl group, because with the 5 moms, we have each of us has a boy and the one has a girl.
Right.
Um, yeah, and then my college roommates, there are 3 of them, and so that's my other posse. Yeah,
We're both huge dog lovers. You talked about, and like you, I have 3 myself. You
and
have a
and yours rule the roost, don't
Oh
they?
yeah, yeah.
Mine too.
I'm just a tenant in the house. It's their house and their bed, everything. I believe that you have Nola, Maribel, and Julio.
And Julio, yes.
Yeah, and I know that Nola is the one who takes care of your mole and squirrel problem. You call her the Squirrel Assassin.
Yes.
Tell us about the 3 of them. I think you called them. They're a pack.
They are the pack, and I don't know what Maribel's John's fixing dinner. We've got a Hello Fresh, so he's doing that. Maribel's there. Julio is laying on a couch somewhere. He's a little bit lazy, and that's fine. We love Julio. Nola, I love Nola. She's pretty awesome. I love her spirit, except she's scared of thunderstorms. The thunder, and when the yard people are doing like anything with a motor in it, that terrifies her. But so I go out the other morning, backyard, take them out to do their business before I go to work, and the lights are off in the yard and it's real dark, and she's going insane. And I'm like, oh no, am I going to have to pull another board up from the deck that we just did
Right.
to pull her out from under, which I did a few weeks ago because she had trapped a possum under there? No, there's a possum walking across the top of the fence, and she's chasing it and barking, and it's like teetering, and I'm like, this is going to be a disaster. So I had to grab her, viciously snarling, and she's, in kill mode for the possum,
Right.
and carry her inside. And Mary Bell, who's 8 pounds, is still back there because she wants to be like Nola.
Right.
Anyway, dogs make your life better, don't they?
Absolutely. They've gotten me through in the last 12 and a half years through some difficult times. The unconditional love, they're there, and yeah, just, they keep you going.
And yeah, and they make you get up and walk them and feed them and take care of them. So you can't like,
Right.
I'm not gonna do any. You have to get up and do stuff.
Yeah. They count on
Yeah,
us. Yeah.
they do.
They definitely do.
And they're demanding, some of them, like
Yes.
Julio and yours.
Yes, they are. But I wouldn't trade them for anything.
I wouldn't
It's like
either.
you're the same way.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't, you can see, no, I can't see it, but
There's one right behind you. Who's that?
is there one behind me? Well, that's Julio. Of
Okay.
course it
There's
is.
Julio.
Hey, Julio. He's always on the couch. So we have a gate, like a kitty gate at the bottom of the stairs, so they don't go upstairs and sneak upstairs and do something ugly,
Right.
No, come here. Come here. Oh, Mary Bell. This is Mary Bell.
Mary Bell.
She's a rescue, and she was found I believe, wandering in the streets, matted up, a broken leg that had never been fixed.
Oh my
And so it was like this, and heartworms. And one of our great rescues here in the Mid-South took care of her, and we adopted her, and they fixed her leg. They thought she would never be able to have use of it again. You can't stop her now.
That's
She's
awesome.
amazing. And this
Yeah.
is Noah.
Aw.
Okay, listen. Who are you growling at? Can you say hi?
Hi.
Okay, no. She's growling at Maribel.
And
Okay, sorry.
mine are protective over each other too. Like if I'm trying to get, eye boogers off their eyes, like Lucy
Oh, yeah.
they'll be barking like, what are you doing to my brother? Like, I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
just taking care of them.
And if you take one to the vet, they're like circling around. Where'd you go? What's
Yep.
happening? Right.
And then
You
they
get back.
attack, whoever you bring back, where have you been? Attacking them. So
Absolutely.
yes, but like I said, they're awesome. I know you've been really fortunate. You have your mother, Billy, and I believe you call Mama, still with
Mama.
you. She just celebrated her birthday August 3rd, I believe.
Yes.
And you and Bo and Maribel just got to spend her birthday with her, and I know you guys had a lot of fun. Tell us about your mom and what she's meant to you throughout your life.
My mom is the one who always told me you can do whatever you want. And so, and I said, I never had a question in my mind that I was going to be in TV news, a journalist. So, and I think that's part of it. I started out my college career at East Tennessee State University, and I knew that I needed to transfer and I wanted to go to UT. They had a really good broadcasting program. And my dad's like, well, you don't just stay here. Your grades are not great. And she said, she's going. She knew.
Right.
Anyway, so that's who she is. Now, she majored, she majored in drama, and she still does. She's very dramatic. We love her. She says she can't cry because she's allergic to her own. I'm allergic to my own tears. She's very funny.
So when y'all went up into where does she live?
She is in this fantastic assisted living facility up in the Tri-Cities. She had a terrible fall a year ago in June, was living by herself and shattered her femur. And so she's had a long road to get back, and she is now walking with a walker. They didn't think she would ever walk again. So she's got an indomitable spirit, and she's doing really well. She's the healthiest she's been in a long time because somebody's making her take care of her diabetes and all that stuff. And they're on top of it. She's doing great.
So being in assisted living, I take it being around other people has to, I know that some people probably have to be, I don't know if I want to do that, but I've heard so many people get there and then they have friends around and people, it helps them, doesn't it?
Yeah. A lot of people are very lonely. She was lonely because during COVID, I have one sister who lives up there and she's a teacher. Well, she still had to work and, still was worried about giving my mother COVID if she was carrying it or whatever. So she was very lonely. Her friends, they'd talk on the phone, but they weren't going to go out anywhere.
Right.
She told me a couple of days ago, she said, well, I went down to a birthday party. And I said, well, good for you. It was her birthday and the other August birthdays. And so they do events, and this particular place is just fantastic. It's got a lot of things to do. She could be doing something every moment if she wanted to. And I think that for her is, she's just got to do it.
Right. That's wonderful.
Yeah. So she's doing good. Thank you for asking.
You're my pleasure. I think you and John just celebrated, I believe, your 24th anniversary. It was all, July 11th.
July 11th, yes.
And y'all were married at St. Helena United Methodist Church out in Napa Valley, California.
Napa Valley. Mm-hmm.
And y'all just celebrated, and I think Bo was here, and y'all went to Erling Jensen's, and John had a serious scare, health scare earlier this year, and I think he had heart surgery and took about 7 hours. That's a long surgery, and then he had another scare. Thankfully he was in the ICU. They ended up having to put a pacemaker in him. You talk about how lucky he was that he actually was in the ICU because they were able to get to him so quickly and respond. You think so many amazing people that took really good care of him at Baptist when he was sick, and you credit them for saving his life, with everything that he went through. It 100% was not his time, and he must be a really strong man. Tell us about him the man, he's the love of your life, and you all spent so many years together. Tell us a little bit about him.
I call him the Beast. I always the Beast. I always have, even when we were dating. It's a term of endearment. Yeah, no, he it's always been healthy as a horse. He gets physical every year. A lot of men don't do that, but he does. And we were in Nashville in January looking at schools, either Belmont or MTSU, for my son to transfer to. Anyway, so we were out and we were walking back to catch a shuttle back to our hotel, and he was having trouble breathing. And it was kind of scary. So when we got back in town, he went to the doctor and they checked him out. Everything seems fine. Well, a week later, we're walking the dogs and he's shuffling, like hardly moving. He said, I feel terrible. I said, well, let's go to the hospital. He didn't feel like it then, but the next morning he said, I think I need to go. And thank goodness, because they discovered, he had a atrial fibrillation and all these other issues. And so fast forward, he had 2 valves replaced and a bypass. But yeah, I tell you, the doctors were amazing. I have such a new respect. I always did, for our nurses and our doctors and all of the people who work in healthcare that don't get heralded as much as the doctors and nurses, but gosh, it's amazing. And the doctors were there all the time at all hours of the night. It's like, do you ever go home? It's amazing, the commitment. We're lucky to have the medical centers we have here and the doctors and nurses and staff that we have. It's amazing.
Yeah, Baptist saved my life a few years ago. I had a blood clot in my leg and then 2 pulmonary embolisms in my lungs. And if I hadn't have, I was at my store when I realized, I said, something's wrong. And if I hadn't gone in to the doctor, my doctor is in Baptist. And then I'm getting admitted to the hospital, but they saved my life too. If I'd waited another day, I wouldn't have made it.
Wow.
So,
yeah, thank goodness. And so, yeah, I guess people need to pay attention to their health and their body.
absolutely.
Something's off. You gotta go, like you knew.
Yep. How did you guys meet?
We met when I came to Memphis. Fox had just bought WHBQ. And you remember probably that it used to be an ABC station.
Yes.
ABC affiliate, right?
Right.
So when Fox bought it, of course, they traded with Channel 24 and they became the Fox-owned station. And Rupert Murdoch, they had a big party. Rupert Murdoch, his then wife, Ann, and his kids, Lachlan and James, they all came to Graceland for the big party. And so Jim Jaggers introduced me to John. I want to introduce you to, because Jim was with Fox 13 at the time.
Right.
Introduce you to people you should know. And so I met John. I was like, oh. And then he had a girlfriend at the time. So anyway, I ran into him later on a story. And so he said, well, let's go out. I said, well, I'm seeing somebody, well, we'll just go as friends. Okay. So anyway.
He knew what he was doing.
He did.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, the fact that you met him and then end up running into him a few years later, it's one of those things. I don't believe in coincidence. That was supposed to happen.
I think so too.
Yeah, that was definitely supposed to happen.
Absolutely.
I saved Bo to talk about for last. I was indirectly involved with those early years because you got what you called back in the day. You said it was Bo's. I remember on TV, you said Bo's first big boy bed.
And you sold it to us.
And I sold it to you. What an amazing relationship you have with him, Valerie. The way you've talked about him, over the years, shows how much, he has been loved by you, John, and your entire family. The night before his first day of 8th grade, back on August 14th, 2016, you took him to his first concert, which was Drake. You got to meet him after the show. That had to be a lot of fun for both of you.
Oh my gosh, it was great. Yeah, he because I would drive him to school. I mean, John would drive him to school, but I would pick him up and then we do whatever. And so that's for his whole life. So he would listen to music. Some of the music I would hate,
right.
But then I thought, I'm going to keep listening. Well, the Drake I kind of liked. And I said, well, I don't like those words. So he would play the clean version for me. And I didn't know there was 2 different versions.
Right.
So he wanted to go see Drake. He loved Drake. And I was like, all right, we'll go. So we all 3 went to Nashville. got a hotel. We knew we had first day of 8th grade the next day. So John was going to take a nap while we went to the concert. So we roll up, Bo and I, and Dennis, Drake's dad, was there. He lives in Memphis,
Right.
or did, Dennis Graham. Hey, Valerie. And I was like, hey, Dennis. And I was like, Mommy, you know Drake's dad? I was like, yeah. Not well, but yeah. And he said, you want to go backstage? Well, not backstage. You want to go to the after party?
Right.
I'm like, well, so I have a friend, Nelia Dempsey, who was there taking her daughter, and we just ran into her. And I said, well, can she go too? And he said, yeah. So we were like, okay, we'll see. So we went. Oh, actually, this gets better. So we had great seats. Somehow I got us great seats. Dennis comes in the middle of the concert and pulls us back to sit with Shania Twain and her son
Wow.
during the concert. The seats weren't as good as ours, but it was still really cool.
Shania Twain.
Yeah, I didn't know who it was. I couldn't hear who he said, but I thought she's pretty cool. So we're just chatting, and then he's like, Mom, that's Shania Twain. I'm like, not. Anyway, so we go to the after party, and that was awesome. It was awesome. And so Dennis made Drake take his picture with us.
Right.
And you could tell he was like, and he was okay. And he was nice. He wanted to go do his thing and
Sure.
be, the after party anyway. But the after party was cool. It wasn't ultra wild. I think it's the after parties that get,
Right.
crazy. And so then we go and we tell John, and he drives us back, and we make it in time for Bo to go to school.
I'm about to say, did you get any sleep at all?
No, but it was so worth it. We
Yeah.
always have those memories. It was worth it.
That's a lot of
So I
fun.
got to take Drake's dad, out to lunch, a year or two later. We went to another concert. He got us to the after party. And anyway, so nobody got to meet Drake that time, no, because Drake was hanging out with his friends. But I said, let me just take you to lunch, thank you for doing all that. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
Let's go back a few years for a minute to when Bo was 8. He said, quote, 8 is the age for a cell phone. Bo used to give you guys presentations. You said he wore like a navy blazer and a tie and was trying to win your approval for something like a cell phone. And you posted something that he made a, quote, cell phone report. He said in it, quote, if I get a cell phone for my birthday, I would take care of it and be trusted with it. Not answer strange calls, never text with people I don't know. I looked at a lot of websites, and 8 is the age for a cell phone. End of quote. And then it said, ding, 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 with a picture of the cell phone actually saying, give me to Bo. What an incredible little funny letter, especially coming from an 8-year-old. I mean, how did you and John keep a straight face while he was giving you guys these presentations and reading that letter?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that we kept a straight face, because it was cute. It was funny. We're really proud, but he didn't get a cell phone until he was 10. So there's that. And then my mother folded like a deck of cards and got it for him.
Of course.
So, but yeah, he was funny. He sold his first book. He wrote a little book when he was 6, and he sold it at the farmer's market at the Botanic Gardens, I think. They used to have one on Wednesday afternoons or something. He sold a few copies. It's like, okay, because he's a cute little boy, and these
Sure.
ladies are okay. I'll pay $1. Yeah, he's. I think he'll do really well, whatever he ends up doing. He wants to be a songwriter, and he's writing songs. So we'll see. That's a tough business.
It is tough. It's a tough business. May 6th, 2021 was his last day of high school at Briarcrest. And you said, quote, we have loved the school. Bo told us he wanted to come here for high school because it is his happy place. The friendships we have made here are all a bonus. He graduated about 10 days later. You guys must have been really proud of him.
We were. And it was, he wanted to go there. And, again, we didn't know anybody there. We really didn't. And it's closer to our house than where he was going. But he was right. If it's this happy place, and he did the presentations on that too.
Oh, wow.
It was a great move. And yes, he was happy. He's been happy. And I think those are his forever friends.
Right.
He's got a group of friends from Briarcrest that I think they'll always be there for each other.
And so he went to school at UT for a year, and then I know you say transferred to MTSU because they have, the music business and songwriting degree he wants. He just got there a few weeks ago, and you said he's super excited. You said that you learned that MTSU's recording industry program has been labeled a quote Grammy factory. Tell us about that love of music that you just talked about. How did you get that?
Yeah. Isn't it funny? Because, he took guitar lessons like in elementary school till he broke a finger or a wrist or something, and then wasn't that interested, but he always has liked music. And, we go from Drake to the country music scene, which he loves now. Um, but he loves all kinds of music. And it kind of surprised me when he was at Briarcrest. He played football, played lacrosse for a while. Um, so one day he comes home and he says, "Mom, I've got to go do something, and we have to go downtown." And I said, "Why?" "Well, we're recording my music video." And I'm like, "Music video? What?" So somehow gotten he'd been working on this all like secretly, to me secretly. His friends knew. And there's a music teacher who's really fantastic at Briarcrest. Can't remember his name right now, but he let him record some stuff at the school. He said, "You're pretty good."
Wow.
Anyway, did a music video. Had a friend who could shoot the video and use the drones. And so they just had fun. And so, yeah. And then when he graduated, he had opportunity to go to several other schools, and he thought he wanted the SEC, school, the big school, UT, where I went, and the fraternity life. And, just a few weeks into it, early October, he called and he said, I, he didn't say I made the wrong choice. He said, "I think I need to be at MTSU or Belmont." And I said, "Why do you say that?" Because he had joined a fraternity and all this. He was living what he thought he wanted to do. He said,
Right.
"Because they don't have the classes here that I need." And I was like, "Yeah, I told you that. Could have told you that." But so here he is, and he's excited. He's excited about school, excited about his classes. So we'll see.
That's awesome. Before he left to go to school this past June, you guys got to work together on a home project, your deck. You said the deck project, quote, "has been a great opportunity for my son and I to learn to work together. I'm so glad we did it. We feel empowered." So I thank the deck guy who ghosted me. Had you
Yeah.
guys ever done anything like that before?
No, no,
That's
not
not
with
easy.
power tools and stuff. I was kind of scared of this saw, but yeah, I just thought, we thought it was just replacing the planks of wood. It became more than that. But I was like, "I can do that." But we can, and I was like, "Mom, yeah, we can do that." These guys aren't calling me back. They're busy, whatever.
Right.
So and one of my friends, Gwen Owens, is like, "Wow." She said, "I've laid all the hardwood in my house. You can do that. You can borrow my electric screwdriver." I'm like, "Okay." And I have a saw. Anyway, we ended up buying a little saw, and one of Bo's friends showed me how to use it. And so Bo and his friend were working one day, and we're all three working, and it's like, it is empowering. Now, we did get to a point after we thought we had it finished that there was a termite situation on the other side. So finally, out of 8 people I called, 3 responded, 2 gave me estimates, and 1 actually showed up and did the work and fixed those structural beams. So it's all done now.
That's awesome. That'd be a
Yeah.
really great feeling to do that with your son.
Oh, it was great. Yes. And I know I felt empowered, and he did too. Because he's like, I said, "Look what you can do, you know? Look
Anything
what
you
you
put your mind to, just like you said
Yeah,
earlier.
absolutely. Absolutely. I'm
What
gonna
are
lay sod next. I've done that before though. That's no biggie.
what are the most important lessons that you've learned in your life?
Perseverance. If you want something, you got to work for it and don't quit. And John the Beast is, he's a perfect example of that too with Beale Street and everything
Right.
else he does. You just can't quit. And so hopefully we pass that on to Bo and to anybody. If you want something bad enough, people tell you you can't do it. You can if you want it bad enough
Right.
and you work and you're willing to work for it. You absolutely can.
Yep. You're right. You got to want it.
You got to.
Valerie, you've always been really super sweet to me over the years. Back when we met at end of 2004, and you sent me lots of people over the years that bought mattresses for me too, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. So I really, oh,
Mary Bell.
hey, Mary
She wants a
Bell.
close up.
Yes, she's a photo bombing here.
Definitely.
So I really appreciate you coming on today. It's been a pleasure to have you, and definitely would love to have you on again sometime down the road.
I would love it. I've enjoyed catching up with you too. Well, even though I've done all the talking, which, sorry.
Well, that's what it's supposed
Yes,
to be.
Thank you for having me on. I've really enjoyed this.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you again.
All right.
Bye,
Take care.
Maribel.